Hello everyone and welcome to my Java programming tutorial. In this video we will talk about static keyword in Java. So as we have been seeing this keyword since class 142, what static keyword does, it is part of a class rather than part of an object. Now as you can see, what we are doing is like we are creating two classes, a programmer class and a client class. So in a programmer class, what we have is you create two fields, like you specify two variables which we also call, but they are actually the fields, and then we write the method without the static keyword. So writing methods in your programmer class without writing the static keyword means that whenever that object is created, the class object of that class, you want that all of those fields and all of those methods want to be part of that object, so they goes with each and every object. But if you have the static keyword with the fields or with your methods, don't go with the objects. It means that they don't belong to the objects, they belong to the class. So let's take this is an example. Like first of all, everyone knows like how to create a static variable and how we can create a static method. So this is one way you are creating a static variable. Now as you are moving forward, so in 143 what we do is we enforce abstraction and encapsulation. So don't forget to put the private keyword whenever you are creating your static variable. So this is one way, like this is just the declaration part, or you can do it this way, like when you know the value you can assign, you do initialization as well. You have private keyword, it means no other class can see it or access to your static keyword, static variable. Then you use the static keyword to make sure that this doesn't go with every object you create, and this is how you create. Let's take a look what static field by definition mean is stored in the class instead of each object, a shared global field. So just like a constant, in constant the only thing is you cannot change the value, but with static you can change the value. And where you are creating that static variable, or the whole class can access that static variable. So accessing static field, so from inside the class where the field was declared, you just write the name and you just make the value equals to whatever the change you want. So as again, you can change the static value, static variables, static fields, but you cannot change the constants. This is another way. So from another class, if you want to access the static field from another class, you write the class name and dot. With the dot you represent the name of your static variable, and then you assign the value. This is how you access from another class. Generally static fields are not public, so you have to make it private unless they are final. We have an exercise to get you started with the example of how this static field works. Modify the bank account class shown previously so that each account is automatically given a unique ID. We have to modify the bank account class, and we will automatically assign a unique ID whenever the bank account object is created. If you just leave the static keyword behind, and if you just think right now how you will count all the objects which were created. So bank account is a programmer's class and client is creating an object of that bank account. So if you want to count how many times that object was created of this class, this is not possible other than if you have to create a loop in your client class and you want client to do this. You don't want client to do the counting for you. Client is just there to test your code. You need your bank account class to keep track how many times client is creating object of your class. So that's here we need a static keyword. So this is, we have a solution. What we are doing is we created a static field name object count and set it as 0, and the data type is int, as this is a counter variable, will keep track of how many objects were created of this bank account class. And this keyword, this variable is set as private. Then we have like two fields, string name and ID. Then what we are doing is we are creating a constructor of bank account. So whenever a bank account object is created, we will do object count plus plus, and we will assign our field ID equals to object count. And this is what we have written, a getter method. We need a getter method because our ID field is private. So if user want to see how many, what's the ID associated with that object, they can just call get ID to see the object. So let's switch to Eclipse and create a class new class, and this is simple bank account, not doing some special features, just to see how static keyword works. So this is what we have for our bank account class. As this is a programmer's class, so we will not write a main method. Now what we will do is we will create a static keyword. So make sure that static is private. We are used to create a static keyword. You use static, and this value is associated with the class, not with the object. So private static, you write the data type, it's int, name of your variable, which is object count, equals to, by default I have set it at 0. After creating your static field, what we will do is we will create our other fields which will be associated with the object. So it will be string name, and make sure these are also private. Put private, then we have private int id, and I don't know what's the name and what's the id. First of all, what you have to do whenever you create a programmer class is to identify your fields and then write the constructors. So constructors are always public, they have the same class name. Our class name is bank account, and inside of this constructor, so we are creating a default constructor, as I'm not asking the name or ID anything, because we have to make sure that ID is unique, and our code should automatically generate a unique ID and assign it to every object which is created by the name bank account. So this is our job. So whenever a client will create an object of bank account, it will invoke this constructor, our constructor, and whenever this constructor is invoked, what we have to do is we have to increase our object count, which is the static field, which is not associated with the object, it is associated with the class. So what I will do is I will say object count plus plus and id equals to object count. So every time when new object is created of bank account, our object count will increase and will assign a unique number to id. So this is how our constructor will work for this. Then we will write a getter method. So public, we will return int get id. So if user want to see what's the unique id they got, we can return id. So that's it for simple bank account example. Let's create our client class and test if we have the right number. So new class, and this is our client class. Client class already exists, so let's say bank client. Finish. So as this is your testing class, you will have the main method, arguments, and inside what we are doing is we will be creating our bank account object. Bank account, let's say Lisa equals to new bank account. So this account belongs to Lisa. So as you can see, this is the first account. Lisa ID should be 1, and let's create another bank account. And now let's see what we have so far. Okay, so system.out.println, let's say lisa.getID. What's the ID for Lisa? End your statement with a semicolon and Control C, enter Control V for Lisa and John. So both should have a different ID, or I would say a unique ID. It should be 1 and 2. And let's see what we have. So yes, so Lisa ID is 1 and John ID is 2. So our get ID and object count is working. Now let's go back to our bank account class, and if you want to see how many objects have been constructed of bank account, then you need to write a getter method for object count as well. So let's write the getter method. It will be public. What we are returning is an int get accounts, that how many accounts have been constructed. So inside what we will return is an object count. And let's go back to our client class and see how many objects are constructed. So system.out.println, and bank account is the class name dot get run, and 2 accounts are created. You need to make sure that whenever you're creating the getter method for object count as well, you need to make the method as static, because otherwise you won't be able to access that method. And how to access your static method? You call the class name dot and you call the method you have written. If you don't write the get accounts getter method, it won't let you access. That's it for the static method. Thank you.